I am currently in the Kilkare woods in Scenic County. It's another beautiful day in California. This place reminds me a lot of La Cañada in Southern California, with the houses up on the hills like this. Just about at the end of the break-in period of 600 miles. I'm at 599, at which point I need to change the oil on the oil filter and then clean and lube the chain. So before I got into motorcycling, I didn't really give motorcycles a second thought. That was just some dangerous vehicle that young people rode, and it wasn't really for me until I got an electric moped and put about 4,000 miles on that in a few months. So I was really into e-bikes and e-mopeds for a while. So they're just so easy to ride. You just pull the throttle and go. There's not really much to them, and they're completely silent, and you just plug them back in when you get home. Until I went on a pretty long ride with my mom. Oh, that was a nice motorcycle workshop in there. But I went on about a 60-mile ride with my mom through some mountains on our e-bikes, and by the time we got back home, both of our bikes were completely out of power. We had to pedal the last mile or so. And I started to think, because that was such a fun trip, that what am I going to do if I want to go on a longer trip? Ooh, there's some deer here. Some babies. So yeah, I started to think, what am I going to do if I want to go on a longer trip, like 100 miles or so? You can't charge them in anything less than 5 hours. So I would go 50 miles and then stop for 5 hours and then go 50 more miles. It just didn't make sense. So I started looking into getting an electric motorcycle. And at this point I didn't have the M endorsement. I just thought I would go get it. And the electric motorcycles have the same issue, that they essentially have a 60-mile range, and then you have to plug them in and charge them, and it's about a 4-hour charge time for those things. Unless you get a Harley-Davidson Livewire, in which case you can use the electric car charging networks, charge it up in about an hour. But that motorcycle costs somewhere around $30,000. It's extremely expensive, and I don't have that kind of money. So I thought, okay, I'll go take the MSF course. I'll get the motorcycle endorsement. Wow, that looks amazing in there. I'll get the motorcycle endorsement, and then I'll figure out what I'm going to do from there. And in the MSF course, they had all Harley-Davidson Street 500s, which are a lot like this. They're cruiser bikes with low seats. One of my biggest fears with motorcycling at all was the issue with the clutch and shifting with the foot. It just sounded weird. It sounded like it would take a long time to get used to. And the MSF course, for those who haven't taken it, is only 2 days. It's 4 hours the first day, 4 hours the second day. And within a couple hours of the first day, we were already shifting up and down using the clutch. And so I realized at that point, there's really nothing holding me back from getting a combustion engine motorcycle. And then I realized if I had a combustion engine motorcycle, I could take many hundreds of mile trips. It would be no problem, and just fill it back up with gas if I needed to go further than its range. Which sounds a little funny to to act like that's an epiphany, that with combustion engine you can just keep going, which is the thing that people always freak out about with electric cars, that they don't know what kind of range they're going to get and whether they're going to be stuck. Now, I actually drive exclusively electric cars, and I haven't had that issue. I've actually taken road trips in our electric cars, and it's not the big deal that people think it is. You know, you drive for about 3 or 4 hours, then you stop for 45 minutes and go eat a pretzel or something, and then you drive for 4 more hours, and then who wants to drive more than that? You know, that's plenty. So for cars, electric definitely makes sense. I think for motorcycles, the issue is just how much battery can you put on something so small as a motorcycle, and the answer is not much. Yeah, I think the Harley-Davidson live wires maybe get 120 miles. Most electric motorcycles are getting more like 60 miles or 100 kilometers. Wow, this is really amazing in here. Now, I haven't tested it on this Rebel here, but I think I should get about 150 miles or so, which is about the same as a Harley Livewire, but it doesn't cost anywhere near that. It's like a quarter or a fifth of the price. Yeah, so that was my path, going from never thinking about motorcycles to now driving a motorcycle as often as I can. And it's just unfortunate that it wasn't until I was in my 40s that I discovered what a fun activity this is, and how much more of the world you get to see, even the part of the world that you live in. I don't live very far from here, and I would never have seen any of this. It's a pretty cool rail bridge right there. So I've actually thought a lot about this. Why are cars so good for electrification and motorcycles are not? And really, semi-trucks aren't very good either, despite what Elon Musk claims. And really, it just comes down to how much of the weight of your vehicle is tied up in the drivetrain. Now, cars hit almost a perfect midpoint where there's about as much of the car weight tied up in the body and tires and everything as there is in the drivetrain and engine. And so when you replace all the drivetrain with batteries, because the motors don't really weigh anything, then the car doesn't weigh much more than it used to. And since batteries have such a crummy power to weight ratio, or energy per gram, you don't really lose out a whole lot. Since you've taken the whole drivetrain out, yes, the batteries weigh more than the gasoline does, but the gasoline never weighed a whole lot in the car anyway. Motorcycles go the other way, where almost the whole weight of the motorcycle is just the engine and the drivetrain. The motorcycle doesn't really weigh anything. And so if you replace the engine with batteries, there just isn't room on the motorcycle for enough batteries to make up for the difference, unless you weigh the motorcycle down to something like 1,000 pounds of batteries. And I don't know where you would even put that on a motorcycle. And then semi-trucks go the other way, where the drivetrain isn't a significant portion of the weight of a semi-truck, especially if it's carrying a load. And so if you're replacing all that drivetrain with batteries, there just isn't enough energy in the batteries to carry all that weight. and you end up having to put batteries in your load or something, and it just doesn't make sense. So cars hit this perfect midpoint where you can replace the whole drivetrain with batteries and get about the same range. Electric mopeds as well make a lot of sense, because in that case the engine on a moped is so small it doesn't really matter if you replace that with batteries. Motorcycles doesn't really make sense yet, not until batteries get a lot better. I wonder how a person ends up living in a place like this. What path through life gets you here? Oh, there's some turkeys. Certainly not my path. I have passed more motorcycles on this road than cars. This must be the spot for weekend motorcycle trips. I can see why. Oh, I think I just lost my spine on that bump. I have no idea what the speed limit is here. Oh, 55, okay. I could be going faster. Alright, I think I'll end it here since I'm about home. And I'll see you in the next one.